Okay. Okay, good morning.
Morning, sir.
Yes. Okay, so it seems we are just four here. So I'm going to continue. I am recording it. I don't know, it seems for the rugby group, you guys are always just a few. So, anyways, let's not waste time. Um, we won't have a long lesson. We're just basically going to go through and focus more on the positions in rugby. Okay, how a rugby team lines up. So yesterday or the day before yesterday, I can't remember. We finished off with just the different sets of rules, the foul play, the rules surrounding the in-goal area, and also how you catch in rugby. So the fair catch rule. Okay, then the positions on a rugby field. So that those positions is each person has a specific position and is specialized in that position. Okay, so the one thing that you will realize very quickly within rugby is you each player looks different. You'll find a player that's very small, sometimes even skinny, compared to the next player who is huge, big, a lot of muscles, or extremely tall. Okay, so you have a lot of different players with different physical attributes, and this is usually because of the reason of the different playing positions. Because in rugby, each position has its specific skills that you require. Okay, so within the positions in a rugby team, they are divided into two groups. The first group is basically your forwards, and then the other group is your backline players. Okay, so we're going to start off with the backline players. You'll see the number represented in front of the name of the position. That is the number that will also be at the back of your shirt when you are playing. Okay, so it starts at 9 because the forwards occupy the smaller numbers, starting from 1 to number 8. Those are your forward players, but we'll get to that. So the first the first player that plays in the back line is usually a scrum half, which is usually the most of the times they are usually the smallest guys or girls on a rugby field. Okay, so scrum half has a key position on the pitch. The scrum half is responsible for feeding the ball into the scrum and passes the ball from the scrum to the fly half or the other backs. So this person, the scrum half, when there's a scrum and the ball is fed in, he's gonna be the one that rolls the ball into the scrum and then also collects the ball at the back of the scrum to pass it out into the back line. Okay, so a backline is usually set on the field. I'll show you a video just now on how they set up, but it starts with a 9, and the 10 is the fly off, and then the next one is the inside center, not the left wing. The inside center, so it goes 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, and then on the other side of the field, we have what is it, left wing, number 11. Okay, so a scrum half is not just responsible for feeding ball into the scrum, but usually they will be the first receiver of the ball, even after line out. So if a team catches the ball or wins the ball in a line out, the person either, if he's not going to keep the ball, he will out of the air pass it to his scrum half to start the play into the back line. Also, a scrum half has to be quite fit because they have to follow the game the whole time. So because they need to be there when there's a breakdown. So with each phase, they start the phase, which means if our team is running with a ball and someone gets tackled on our team, right? And I'm the scrum half, I need to be close to where that breakdown takes place. So I need to get there quickly because the scrum half's responsibility is also to collect the ball at the back of a ruck. So when a ruck is formed, He'll collect the ball and pass it into the back line. When there's a maul, he will follow the maul. He won't join into the maul to push. He will be very close at the back for if the players, his teammates decide, okay, the maul can't go any further or the maul isn't moving, then he will take the ball out of the maul at the back and pass it into the back line. So he's basically the person that receives the ball first and then plays it into the back line. Okay. However, that is not a rule in rugby. He's just specialized in those roles. However, any person on a rugby team can go collect the ball at the ruck or a maul. Okay. However, it's preferred the scrum half do it so that the other ones can line up and form a proper backline in order to attack. Then the next player is the fly half, is the number 10. So these are usually a bit bigger than the scrum half, but they're probably about the second smallest player on the rugby field. So when you look at the number 10, it's very much similar to, I don't know, a number 10 in soccer. These are usually the playmakers. So they've got a good view on the field, where the open spaces are. So they dictate what moves will be made. Okay. So they have a very big responsibility. And most of the time, they are also responsible for all the kicking work done on in a rugby match. So when there's a penalty kick taken, they'll take it. When there's a conversion, they'll usually take it. When they need to kick out the ball into touch, usually it will be the fly half that will be responsible to do that. Anyone is allowed to kick, but usually they specialize this during training. So that's why you always see the number 10 always doing all the kicking work. Okay, so basically it's the decision maker among the backs. His role is to distribute the ball, and he's also a major point scorer. So the reason why the fly off is sorry. Okay, so the reason why the scrum half can't be the playmaker is because the scrum half is always bent over and very low, so he can't really see what's happening. While the fly off is next to him and has a good view on what is happening on his right hand side, on his left hand side, where the defensive players are. Okay, then if we look at the left wing and the right wing, they pretty much have the same responsibilities. It's the one is just on the one side of the field, so similar to like in soccer, and the other one is on the other side of the field. Okay. However, in between those two positions, right, we have the scrum half, fly half, inside center, outside center, 14, and then on the other side we have the left wing, and then right at the back we have the fullback. Okay, so let's move to the left wing. So the left wing, they're usually strong runners. With strong runners when they receive the ball. So their job is to gain territory, and they usually score a lot of tries. Okay, so when you are looking for a wing player, obviously the first thing you're going to look for is a strong runner with the ball. So a lot of power, but also extremely fast. Okay, so they have to have a lot of speed in order to, if you play the ball quickly out to the left wing or the right wing and there's space, then they can actually attack that space. And most of the times they will get into those gaps, and it will be difficult for the defending team to catch them because they are so fast. Okay, and then the inside center, he plays next to the fly off. So most of the time, the fly off will pass the ball to the inside center. He performs a lot of defensive work for the backs and gets the ball out to the wingers. So the inside center's role is basically to make a lot of tackles when they are defending, and then also to try and get the ball quickly to either the outside center or the right wing. Okay, because the aim of rugby is if you can pass the ball quickly, right, from player to player like this until it gets to the right wing. If you can do that quicker, then the defensive team can line up to defend your guys. Then if there's a breakdown and they take long to line up to defend, if we play the ball out quickly, then all of this space on the side will be open and they will attack. I will show you just now when we look at the field layout. Okay, and then after the inside center, and then the inside center is also usually a quite big and muscular guy. Okay, not fat, just big. Looks like he's got a lot of speed, but also a lot of muscles. So it's quite a scary guy to face in the field when they run up to you. And then also very similar to the inside center is the outside center. However, the outside center has more attacking skills, so they're good ball carriers. They score a lot of tries, and they also responsible to try and get the ball out to the wing players as quickly as possible. Okay, so these are also usually very big guys, muscular, very fast, very strong. These are the guys that you see on those video clips that knock over guys, run straight into guys. They're not afraid to encounter or go to enter for tackles, etc., etc. Okay, and then we have the right wing, which is pretty much same as the left wing, built the same, a lot of pace, agility, and they are there to try and beat players, run into space, and score tries. Okay, and then the fullback. So in the fullback, you will see the fullback sometimes also has similar responsibilities as the fly half, because the fullback is right at the back of the field. Okay, so when the other team kicks for position or for territory and they don't kick out, usually the fullback will be the receiving player of that ball. So he needs to be a good catcher, and then they need to. Usually, you'll see the fullback has um, skills similar to the wing players because they're usually also very fast. They need to also be very agile, and also they have to be smart, like your fly half. Okay, because they can have a nice view of the field, so they can attack from the back using their pace and run into spaces or gaps, and then they will also usually also be responsible for kicking as well. Okay, because if they catch the ball and they see an open space on the opposition side, they might kick the ball into that space. And other than that, sometimes when you see the fly half not taking penalty kicks or conversions, the next person that will be in line to do those kicking responsibilities will be your fullback, because they also have good kicking skills. Okay, so what is important for you guys to know? You'll see in the periodization that I also uploaded onto Moodle. There they give a nice breakdown of each position. So you need to know the number, and then the name of the position, and then the responsibilities of that person on the field. So what is his main job? Okay, and then also what was the other one? Oh, yeah, I think it's pretty. It's the number, the name, and the roles and responsibilities of that player on the field. Okay, so that's your backline. They are responsible for attacking. Okay, they are responsible to attack and try and score tries. And during your training sessions, usually coaches will have different types of game plays that they train during the week. So you can even make your own moves whereby you skip, fly off the scrum off, plays the ball to the fly off. The fly off, he makes like he's going to pass to the inside center, but the inside center comes in and fakes a run, and he skips him and passes to the next person. So then they usually give these moves a name, and then that's just a way to try and attack the or surprise your opponents. Okay, so then they give names to different moves, and then maybe the fly off will call in the next breakdown. The fly off will say, let's do I don't know, let's do a booty, right? And then the whole team knows how they need to line out what's going to happen, and then they'll do the booty move, and then the booty move might work, and then they go score a try. Okay, I hope you followed with the backline. In a while, I'll show you guys exactly how that lineup looks when they are on the field. So let's quickly move on to the front row. Okay, so the front row is the first 8. So you've got your number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up to 8. Number 1 is your loose head prop. Okay, it's called the loose head prop. And these first three are usually those, not in modern day rugby, they're not fat anymore, but in the olden day rugby, those fat guys with the stomachs hanging out, they were always these three. Okay. Today's rugby, they're still the biggest on the field, usually the heaviest. Okay, but it's better to get them very muscular. I don't know if you've watched the rugby, maybe the Springboks, maybe you've seen the Beast or one of those guys. That's usually how they look. Okay, so you have your loose head prop, and then the second one is the hooker, and then the third one is the tight head prop. Okay, so the usually how we describe front row players is by looking at the scrum, how they line up in a scrum. So the first three guys standing in front will be these three: the prop, hooker, and then the tight head prop. And then at the back of them, you'll find the locks. So when we look at locks in rugby, sometimes you'll see they are the tallest guys. Okay, here in these positions, you want guys that stand over 2 meters long. Okay, so those are the very tall guys. They're usually utilized in lineouts, so that you can have an advantage of height in the lineouts. And in the scrum, they bind in between the first three, and then on the side you have your flankers, which is your blind side flanker, your open side flanker. Usually also very muscular players. They do a lot of the hard work on the rugby field, like cleaning out rucks, stealing balls out of rucks, even in malls, stealing balls in malls, controlling malls together with one or two locks. And then the last person is the eighth man, who plays behind these seven guys. And in a rugby match, most of the times, you will also find that the eighth man is usually the captain of the team. Okay, they are very matured players. They know how to control their forwards. Okay, it's not easy for backline players who are small compared to these guys for them to control these big forwards. So the eighth man usually controls them and leads their play, and then also leads the whole team's play. Okay, and then all these positions form part of the scrum. These guys will also be responsible for other set plays like the line out. So when a line out is taken, the hooker is always the one to throw the ball in. So every time the ball goes out of play, the hooker throws the ball into the line. Okay, and then usually the loose head prop and tight head props will be responsible together with the flankers to lift up or pick up the locks in order to compete for the ball in the air when the ball is thrown in. Okay, and also the eighth man can also be responsible for that, either catching the being picked up or picking up other players within the line out. And then in a maul, this is once again your most important players. In a maul, you would want these big guys to run a maul because obviously it would be more difficult to stop them. Okay, and then at the rocks, they usually come in hand. Okay, so like they become useful. So as the same way as the scrum half follows the gameplay, you also want your forwards to follow the gameplay, because when someone gets tackled and the other team is trying to get the ball, these big guys will usually come running in trying to clean those rucks. Okay, trying to put their weight over the ball so that they can't be removed. So they are actually responsible for a lot that happens in a rugby match. And if they don't do their job properly, then this backline will never get into the game. And obviously, there will be no scoring opportunities. Okay, once again, for the forwards, important for you to know the number associated with the position, so the name of the position as well, and then also the roles and responsibilities. Like I said, in the periodization, it gives you the exact role of each. Like the loose head prop is responsible. He will be on the left hand side of the scrum. Is usually the person that him together with the tight head prop are responsible for the power going into the scrum. So hitting hard, pushing the scrum backwards. The hooker who is in between these two big guys, and himself also being a big guy, he's responsible in the scrum for hooking the ball. So if the scrum half rolls the ball into the scrum, he won't be on both his feet. One leg will be forward so that he can hook the ball backwards towards his locks, flankers, and then eventually the eighth man will have control of the ball at the back. And then the scrum half will come all the way to the back and collect the ball and play it further into the back line. Okay, so looking more into the scrum. So a scrum occurs when a ball is put back into play after an infraction such as a knock-on. So every time a knock-on occurs, then game will be replayed or restarted in the form of a scrum. So then each team's forwards lock together in a set manner, trying to position the scrum so that each team's hooker can kick or hook the ball back to the number 8. To outscrum the opposition and gain possession for the team. Okay, so during training, right, if you are training for your next match, during that 1 week or 2 weeks training, the coach will always focus on training on scrums and then training on lineouts as well. So usually what they'll do is they'll split the team. The backline goes to the backline coach, and then usually most of the times the forwards will go to the one side of the field with the forwards coach or the head coach, and then they will go through the scrumming, how to scrum properly, how to get more strength into your scrum, power, how to looking at the techniques, etc., etc. Because if your scrum is stronger than your opponent's scrum or more organized, then you have a very big advantage in the game. Because every time there's a scrum, you're gonna win the ball. Okay. Same with lineouts. If you have better lineouts, better lineout moves, better locks who can catch the ball better and gain more height, then you will win the ball every time there's a lineout. Doesn't matter who kick the ball out. Okay. So those set plays is very important in order to keep the rugby match going smoothly. Is there a question? Okay. Let's move on.
No question.
Okay. So then next we're moving on to the line out. So a line out in rugby is like a throw in soccer. Okay. If the ball goes out the sidelines, obviously we need to get the ball back into play. So in rugby, it becomes very technical. Okay, it's different from in other sports. So if the ball goes out, if my team kicks the ball out, then obviously the throw in will go to the other team. However, on a penalty, if my team gets a penalty, I can decide, okay, I'm gonna kick the ball out the field. Okay, maybe in an oblique, in an angle. So we're gonna try and kick it into their territory, but I'm gonna make sure that if the ball bounces or goes directly out. And then because it was a penalty, we will get the throw in as well. So that's the advantage. But during open play, if I try and kick for territory and the ball goes out, then obviously the other team's gonna get the throw in. Okay, so how does the throw in work? So like I said, those forward players will line up on the side of the field, right? So they'll stand in two lines, the one team on the one side, the other team a meter away on the other side. Okay, so this line out, when we look at the markings, it's between 5 to 15 meters from the touch line, and those markings are also on the field. So these players need to line up not before the 5 meters away from the sideline, after 5 meters within that area, the 15-meter area. Okay, then the throwing team decides how many players take part in the lineout. So when they approach the lineout, the other team will already see, okay, they've got 5 in the lineout. We also need to put 5 in the lineout. So the one team will never have more or less in the lineout, and the referee will also look at that. Okay, and then the two lines must line up 1 meter apart, and then the thrower. So even if it's your team throwing, You have to throw the ball straight in between the two lines to give each team the opportunity to compete for the ball. If it goes more to the left side, the referee will blow his whistle and the throw-in will be awarded to the other team. Okay, so that's why the hooker needs to practice that during his training times as well. Usually you'll see them on the side of the field sitting on their knees or throwing it towards the target in order to obviously strengthen that skill. And then the ball must at least travel 5 meters before it is caught. So in a line out, you can't catch the ball before 5 meters. It will be considered as an infringement of the rules, and you'll be penalized for that. And then play begins as soon as the ball leaves the player's hands. Okay, so if those players are lifting a lock into the air and he catches the ball, but he's still in the air, no one is allowed to tackle him out of or try and pull him down out of the air, and you're also not allowed to tackle the people holding him up. Okay, as soon as he comes down and his feet touches the ground, then he's in play. Then you're allowed to tackle as much as you want. Okay, but a lot of the times you'll see when a lock or the person who caught the ball, when they bring it down to ground, it's usually because they wanna form a maul. So he'll put it into his tummy, bring it down, and then his team binds onto him, and then they start forming a maul and pushing the team back. But most of the times they'll catch the ball while in air. He'll turn towards his scrum half, which is standing next to the line out, and pass it down to the scrum half, who will obviously continue the play into the back line. Okay, anyways, before we continue with principles of play, let me just quickly I'm sorry, this thing is now freezing. Okay. This thing is taking a bit long. Anyways, should we try and open this again? Okay, I don't know what's wrong with that slide. Why it's freezing now a little bit. Let me rather than quickly go and see if I can't show you guys the video. Okay, my apologies for this. I don't know why it's all of a sudden everything's taking so long. Anyways, where's it? Okay, I'm not sure if the sound's gonna work, but just let me know. Let's quickly look at this playing positions. Okay, maybe it will just be best if I don't know why the network is now so slow. When I post this lesson on Moodle, then I'll just also post these videos as well. Okay, please go look at the playing positions, because if you see it on the field of play, then it becomes easier to understand. Okay, so then you'll also understand the roles, and you'll have a view on how the players line up on a rugby field. Even in the lineouts, we know what's happening, but maybe some of you don't have the view of really what's happens. Okay, so I'll go post that. I think I have actually posted things about lineouts already that you can go look at. And then over the weekend, so by Monday, you will also have your activities that you'll need to do. So some activities, and then obviously an assignment. And I will post the date for your test for rugby. Okay, I'm not gonna play that because we're just gonna. I don't think it's gonna freeze the whole time. Is there any questions from your side?
No.
Okay, so everyone understood everything. Okay. Anyways, then we'll end here for today.